If you're a university student like myself, you may have been struggling to stay focused with classes being online and may get distracted easily and struggle to pay attention to what the lecturer is saying. This is something I really struggled with at the start of this year, and after lots of changing and adapting, I now have a system and use techniques that enables me to stay focused during online classes. And that's exactly what we're going to be exploring and what I'll be sharing with you today. And we're going to find out how to do this exactly with 4 different techniques, including 1. Initiative notes, 2. Effortless Organisation, 3. The 2 Focus Optimisers, and 4. The Finish Faster technique. Before we get into the strategies and tactics, we first need to explore why we are not staying focused. Firstly, the lack of correct systems and the wrong environment around us can really prevent us from being productive and getting things done. For example, if we always have our phone by our side or our video games are really accessible and we always have the console plugged in, for example, that can really prevent us from staying productive and it can easily distract us. So as we'll find out in a bit later, it's all about eliminating those distractions. Because if those distractions are right there, it's harder to get into that work mindset. So now let's explore some strategies and tactics that we can use to help get rid of those distractions and stay focused during online classes. Firstly, we are covering the importance of initiative notes. So what are initiative notes? Initiative notes are essentially preparing for the class before we have the class. So for example, this could be reading the slides that the lecturer has uploaded, it could be doing any homework that the lecturer has set, or it could be taking some notes from the slides. And the reason this is important because when we go into the class, we'll have a better understanding of what is going to be taught. That means we can go in with any questions that we might have and be able to ask them, and we'll also be able to develop our knowledge further, and we can concentrate more on what the lecturer is saying, not what is just on the slides, because it'd be really hard to take notes on the slides and what the lecturer is saying at the same time. Hence why I think doing this preparation work is really important. For example, for me, all the classes I'd done preparation notes and all the classes I didn't do preparation notes, I found all those classes that I'd done those preparation notes or read the slides before or something like that, I was so much more engaged in what the lecturer is saying because I wasn't rushing trying to take notes on the slides as well as what they were saying at the same time. Also, when it comes to taking notes for classes, I think there are 2 really good techniques. Firstly, we have taking our own notes from the slides in our own note-taking app. For example, I use Notion for the majority of my notes, and essentially I would take notes from the slides in Notion before the lecture, and then during the lecture I would add to those notes with what the lecturer is saying. And this is the technique that I have followed for the majority of this semester. If you want to find out how I use Notion to take notes for classes, you'll find a link in the description to a video that I've already made about that. Next, we have the adding to the slides technique, and this technique is starting to grow on me because it's really efficient in terms of how long it takes, because it doesn't take as long, because in terms of the preparation it's only just going over the slides, and then during the class I'll just add to the slides with what the lecturer is saying. So I'd have a split screen. On one side I will have the live lecture, and then the other side I'll have the slides that the lecturer uploaded, and then I would just take notes in the speaker note section with what the lecturer is saying. So it's elaborating on what's already on the slides. And this can really save a lot of time in the long run, I think, because I'm not spending like 1 or 2 hours rewriting what they've already written, because essentially that is quite a waste of time if you think about it. My process before was that it helps me gain an understanding, and I think it does kind of in a way, but if I think about it, only time will tell how well I grasp an understanding of taking notes from the slides and only reading them and elaborating on them. From what I've seen so far, it's really been efficient because I can grasp an understanding and focus on other work that I have to do for university instead of just taking notes from the lectures, such as reading or coursework and so on. I'm not sure exactly which one I'm going to follow. At this moment in time, I'm doing a kind of a combination of both. Sometimes I might take notes from the slides beforehand, and then sometimes I might only add to the notes of the slides. So for classes I'm not as familiar with the content, or I might find it a bit more difficult to understand, I will take notes on those slides for the preparation. But for classes that I'm finding easier to understand, I will just read them and I'll just add to the slides instead of making notes and then adding to those notes. For example, in my marketing communications module today in a lecture, they talked all about ethics, and I'm pretty familiar with that, with doing philosophy and ethics at A level and GCSE actually. So I was pretty familiar with it. I knew what they're talking about. I kind of knew more with what they're talking about because they didn't really go into the depth with all like the philosophers and what they've talked about and the moral ethical theories and all that, because we don't really need to know that for marketing as it's not an ethics module. I was really familiar about it, so there was no point in me rewriting those notes because I already had an understanding. I was in the speaker notes, I was just adding a lot of stuff that I knew from it as well, because I studied it for like 2 years in depth at A level, so I knew quite a bit of that, probably more than I'll actually even need to talk about in the module, and that knowledge will be helpful next semester because I should be doing a module which is all about ethics and business ethics. Next we are covering effortless organisation, and this is essentially having your digital files organisation, all the files on your computer or on Google Drive or wherever you store your things, on OneDrive, whatever, having that organisation on point and organised precisely, really, really well, at the start of the semester, meaning when you have those classes, there's no moving files around, trying to create a file structure. Just get it on point, put some time in the beginning. I do this beginning of each semester, just making sure my digital organization for all my classes is perfect. Essentially, just having something really easy to organize all your files can really be really helpful. Yeah, that's what I do. I have a really basic structure of how I organize things. I'll actually show you right now how I do that.
Okay, so now I'm just going to show you my files organizational structure. Here we can see that I have a load of different folders. These folders 1 through 8 are all synced to Google Drive using the desktop and sync by Google, and that means that they're all backed up to Google Drive, meaning when anything ever happens to the hard drive in my computer, all the files are backed up on Google Drive, which is great because if anything happens, I will still have access to those files. I also back them up on physical hard drive as well, so that way I'm achieving double redundancy. I also back up my video files onto one hard drive, and then I also back it up to another hard drive. So I have two small 2 terabyte hard drives, and I back up everything onto a bigger 1.4 terabyte hard drive, and then once they fill, I'll probably have to get something else as well. Okay, so let's get into the main actual file structure, which we're going to talk about. So I'm going to go into UEA, go into second year, and I'm going to show you my marketing folder, for example. And in here, I have all the stuff to do with like summative. So that might be like the summative coursework brief. I have the information about the module, and then in lectures and seminars, I have all the PowerPoints from those lectures or seminars. So for example, for lectures, I have all the different lectures, and then I have all the slides inside of those that was given, all the things that we needed for that. Then I have my notes in Notion, as I said earlier, and sometimes I also do notes just in the speaker notes, but for mostly so far it's been Notion. Yeah, that's basically it. Not much to it. I have different folders here for different things. So I have the 3 modules I have this semester. I'll make 3 new ones for next semester. I have stuff that I need for files for the Filmmaking Society, Photography Society. This is just like general other stuff. Placement year application, student enterprise. This is a link to like a coursework spreadsheet that I put together to like plan out how long it'll take me to get my coursework done, just so I can get it done on time and maybe even earlier. And then I just have like a referencing handbook here, and then like, yeah, there's just other modules here as well. Yeah, that is pretty much it.
Next, we have the 2 focus optimizers. First, we have designated spaces. I've talked about this a bit on the channel before, but essentially we don't want to be working and relaxing in the same place, because it will really like confuse us in a way, because we won't be like, okay, this is where I work, this is where I relax, and it will be harder to get to work because you won't really be able to make that distinction. Even if you can like switch around what rooms you're working in, where you live, or what places in your room that you work, that could help you achieve the same effect that it does, because we don't want to be working and relaxing in the same place because it can be harder to stay focused. So creating that differentiation is really good. Like for example, for me, sometimes if I'm like struggling to stay focused in my room, I'll go downstairs in the kitchen, especially when it comes to writing. Like when it comes to writing video scripts, it's so much easier for me to write them in the kitchen downstairs than being in my room writing. I don't know exactly why, but I've just found that to be much more helpful when it comes to doing writing. And also we have one of the most powerful productivity tools that I think I've used, because there are a lot of distracting websites out there, such as social media, for example. And if this is distracting you, maybe you should definitely get this. This has been so helpful for my productivity, it's crazy. Like so sometimes when I was like, okay, I'm gonna do some studying or some writing, I would just, you know what, let me just go onto YouTube, let me just go onto Twitter, just easily type it on my keyboard. But now when I go to that, I get this like face on there saying, shouldn't you be working or something like that. And I have this enabled to be scheduled every day from the morning to the late afternoon / evening, blocking websites that might distract me.
Okay, so we're now in Google Chrome. I'm just gonna go to the Chrome extension called Stay Focused. This is what I was talking about. I'm not sure if I already said the name or not. So we're gonna go into settings. You can just get it off the Chrome extension store thing. So I'm gonna show you how I set it up. They actually updated the extension recently. So essentially, it's very similar. It hasn't really changed much. But anyway, so the nuclear option, as you can see here, once I go into it, this is like the main part of it, is that we put in here, okay, the sites we want blocked, which correlates with the block list, which we'll go into in a second. And then we'll say that I'll usually say just say the whole site, and then I have it from 12 hours for 12 hours from 7 AM. And this just makes sure I don't go on websites that distract me during the time where I want to do any work. If we go to the block sites, it's mainly social media. So we have Instagram, Netflix, Twitter, YouTube. They're the websites that I found that distract me the most. And if I'm ever at a point where I find other websites do distract me, I'll just add it to the list here and then click add block lists. That means I won't be able to go to them, because if I try to go onto the website right now, if I go to YouTube, we have this little thing that comes up. So shouldn't you be working, and like that thing that I said earlier. And yeah, that comes up, and meaning that we won't be able to get distracted. And when the time is up, we can go on the website, and we also have a of how long we can go on a max time per day. So I have a 60 minutes per day, meaning that after that time is up, I'll be able to use it for up to 60 minutes and then the blocked thing will come up again. And that is basically it when it comes to using this Chrome extension called Stay Focused.
Lastly, we have the finish faster technique. And this is essentially where you have asynchronous classes, which are pre-recorded material and we need to work through them in our own time. Or if you're catching up on a live lecture that was recorded, we can watch these lectures in 2 times speed. The meaning will be saving a lot of time in the long run because we do it in half the amount of time. And the system that your university might use might have a built-in feature to change the speed. And if it doesn't, luckily there is a Chrome extension called Video Speed Controller, which we can get from the Google Chrome store thing, which we got the other extension from, and that will allow us to change the speed. You can even go higher than 2 times speed as well. So you can change that speed depending on how fast the lecturer is speaking, how fast you want it, and maybe you want it at 1.7 times speed, or maybe even 3 times speed, depending on how fast or slow the lecturer is talking. And I found that really helpful to just work through material much quicker. And the reason I put an emphasis on doing things faster is because I want to be able to do more things apart from my university course. Like I want to be able to take part in the filmmaking society, the photography society, make these videos, work on other projects that I'm really interested in. And that's why I feel like implementing these tactics and strategies can be really impactful for us. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. On the screen right now is a link to a video called How I Stayed Productive in My First Year at University. I cover a lot of tips that help me stay productive. Feel free to check that out if you like. Otherwise, thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys soon.